Good morning, afternoon, and evening all. This is Yorkie. I hope you're doing well. Today we have episode 2 of the brand new Sit and Chat series. If you haven't seen episode 1, make sure to click the little box on the video right here, or choose to click the link in the description later on. But yeah, so for episode 2 we had a number of different things to come in, a number of different questions and topics that people wanted requesting to ask, and start off with something that should be hopefully relatively quick by Charging Car. I'm sure a lot of people know of him. He's a well-known YouTuber with F1. He has around 700, 800 subs at the moment. So he's doing rather well for himself. But yes, his question was, do you think that Codemasters will ever be able to create a racing game without any lag? Or am I the only person that it bothers? They always talk about improvements, but it's always the same. Well, I'm in exactly the same boat as you. As probably a lot of you know, my connection was actually god awful. I had to leave the ARL because of it, because I kept on disconnecting. And apparently a lot of other people actually get lag from me. They kind of see my car ghosting and jumping around, which is a shame. As for actually Codemasters ever being able to do it, I think your actual internet connection has a big part of it. So until everyone has fiber optic broadband, probably not. But I think that's around 2015 that the UK are trying to get that sorted by. Hopefully it's going to come up relatively soon in my area, because there's a lot more I'd like to do with F1 and gaming on my channel, but obviously I'm limited to what I can do with a relatively poor internet connection. So you're not the only person that bothers. I'm guessing once we've actually got that fiber optic sort of thing in place, then the actual stability of the game and the amount of lag will probably be a lot better. Dedicated servers would definitely help, rather than running it from basically a server host, because not only does it rely on their internet connection, but also their PC to process all that information and send it around backwards and forwards. So I reckon they can. It would just be, hopefully we'll be able to see it for the next gen consoles, because obviously they got much better hardware. Hopefully Codemasters will have enough time and resources to put in features like a dedicated server, or dedicated servers, or even allow people to basically buy dedicated servers like they can for games like Battlefield and Armour, Daisy, all that sort of thing. So that would be very handy if they did do that. It would improve leagues drastically, and it'll basically just, yeah, hopefully it'll make it a lot more stable for a lot of the people who play the game, such as you and I. So the second question, and this is probably going to fill up the rest of the episode, was by Riggy Muse. He said, good idea for a series. I guess I'll start with Red Bull and their rise to dominance. What are your thoughts on them as a team, and more specifically Vettel, his pace, attitude, relationship to Webber, and favouritism, and etc, etc. Is it good for the sport to have a team like that, kind of like how Ferrari dominated with Michael Schumacher and Barrichello back in the day? Some people think it's boring, some people think that it's not that bad. Finally, who can you see as a good viable replacement for Webber in 2014? Well, I knew this topic was going to come up at some point, and it's probably best to get it done and out of the way now, because it's been quite a big talking point this season, and probably over the last couple of seasons as well. They've been like very much up there in the sort of press list with their dominance, with their now 3 world titles, Sebastian Vettel holding 3 drivers' championships all in a row. And yeah, I've actually did kind of I did create a series thinking I would have to talk about this, and kind of wanting to talk about it as well. But going from the top, Red Bull as a team themselves, I've not really ever liked the team as such, but I've never really disliked them. They've just kind of been there, and they're kind of, Yeah, they're alright. Apart from obviously they're winning, so they're not alright. They're doing very very well for themselves. But when they first came into the sport and started, they're kind of around the back end of the midfield area. They weren't doing too well for themselves. But I'm guessing Red Bull, the brand, actually kind of really helped them push their basically their development funds and just really helped to drive the car forward. I think the first year that we really saw them come to really challenge was 2009. I think it was when Jenson Button won the World Championship for Brawn. That was when I think they really first came into the spotlight with a car that can actually challenge for race wins, and they actually managed to get quite a few of them towards the end of the season. But yeah, they've come quite a long way. They have really pushed themselves forward quite well, which is quite good. As to moving on to Vettel, I don't like Vettel. I never really have. His win for Toro Rosso back in Italy a long time ago in the wet, that was impressive. I was pretty impressed by that, and people were saying that he has a lot of potential to be a world champion. And I was thinking, yeah, he does. I didn't really like him at the time as such. He had ruined a couple of races for a number of different drivers who I actually liked, which kind of pissed me off a little bit, but obviously what can you do, it's out of my hands. But yeah, I didn't really like him. As for his pace, I'm going to be pretty bold and say I don't think he'd be where he is if we didn't have the car that he has. The car, obviously designed by Adrian Newey, is absolutely fantastic. He had been there when a lot of the cars won numerous championships. He was there when Williams had the active suspension. He designed that car and they won multiple drivers' championships. He was also there for McLaren around the 97, 98, 99 era when Mika Hakkinen and also David Coulthard were winning championships. And obviously he's moved on to Red Bull now. And I think Adrian Newey has a massive part in Vettel's success. And one of the reasons why I say this is because Fernando Alonso is... I don't really like him too much either, although I'm starting to like him more and more as the season has gone on. But we all know how much of a dog the F1 2012 Ferrari was and how bad that was. Yet so Fernando Alonso was there up the front challenging for a world title towards the end of the season. He's done that from a car that was back down in the midfield, a second at least off the pace from the Red Bull and the McLaren. Yet I don't think Sebastian Vettel could do that. He's always had his Red Bull, and he's had his times where he's been further down the grid and been struggling and managed to come back through. But I think the car has a big part to play in that. Like his latest World Championship in Brazil last year, he got very lucky with the weather conditions being much cooler because everyone saw the damage that had happened to the exhaust and that rear section of the car just in front of that rear tyre from the turn 4 impact that put him to the back of the grid. And only because of the cool weather conditions did it prevent the engine and exhaust system from basically overheating, and was able for him to then continue racing. And yeah, he managed to claw his way back through the field. But when you got a car probably as stable and as good as the Red Bull, it probably wouldn't be too difficult, although obviously there would have been a loss of downforce. But at the same time this year, I think it was China or Bahrain where Kimi Räikkönen lost I think it was the end fence and a huge, all his little winglets on one side of his front wing, and it was basically pretty much just the wing itself. And that was just on one side, yet he was still able to, I think it was either third or fourth he managed to get in the end, and it was only a couple of attempts off the pace per lap because of that. So, yes, downforce does affect the cars, and damage does have quite a big impact on that, but also the drivers and the teams can actually do a lot with the differential and stuff to make the difference to try and maintain some of that grip. But yeah, he's good on his pace. Yeah, he does his qualifying kind of bores me when he gets pole, because you kind of know he's going to disappear off into the distance and control the race, which I do find relatively boring when the focus is around him. But the racing stat can still be interesting after that. It depends what happens further down the field, and also when actually he has an issue or a problem or has to retire. That's probably one of the only ways that you're actually going to stop Vettel, unless Mercedes have a really good start or a very good strategy, and just kind of end up managing to overtake him. But yeah, so I'm not really a big fan of Vettel. I never really have been. I've found him relatively boring. As for his attitude, I don't know. I don't particularly. Yeah, I just don't flat out like him, to be honest. His attitude isn't a good one. He tends to throw his toys out the pram an awful lot. He has a lot of people backing him. People like Bernie Eccleston and the entire Red Bull team, and the numerous other people were just like always there for him whenever things go wrong. But the way he's kind of done that for himself, and then when things don't go his way, he kind of throws all his toys out the pram and basically he just has a go at the team, or tries to find one way or another to get himself in front of another driver. Like Hungary, the last race kind of made me laugh when actually he got overtaken by Kimi Räikkönen, and Räikkönen squeezed him over to one side. There was easily enough room for Vettel there on the outside. Räikkönen did give him a car's width, yet Vettel still appealed the overtaking manoeuvre, saying that should go to the stewards. Obviously, after the race he was a lot more calm about it, but there in the moment, which again is understandable because things look a hell of a lot closer than they actually are, and when you're actually in the middle of the heat of racing, going wheel to wheel with someone. When it was there in the moment, he appealed for the steward team to get Charlie Whiten to have a look to see if it was a fair overtaking manoeuvre, and there was numerous other times throughout the season and last season where he basically just got really, really pissy with the team because he didn't have the car underneath him. And thinking about it, yes, that's understandable, especially if you're used to having a car that would just absolutely dominate, and the car's not there for you, and that would be frustrating. However, I guess a lot of other people don't. Either you don't hear it, or they keep it under wraps until the end of the race. But yeah, so I'm not a fan of his attitude, especially after Malaysia. That really pissed me off, where he said that he was sorry and didn't understand back in Malaysia for overtaking Mark Webber. And I actually really like Mark Webber. He's a very good, honest guy. But we'll get back onto Webber in a second. But yeah, he overtook Webber in that very controversial move and said that he was sorry and that he didn't really understand. That was right there at the actual time. Looking back on it, the following race, it was actually meant to believe that he did understand the actual code multi-21, as in Spa the previous year, Red Bull gave the order multi-1-2, which is Vettel finishing first, Webber finishing second, and Vettel quite clearly said across the radio, understood. So he knows what it means. He was just lying, I'm guessing, back in that press conference, and then the following week, or no, well, the following couple of weeks after that, when they turned up in China for the next race, Vettel turned around and said he wasn't sorry. Apparently he was, this is his words, he was the fastest, he overtook Webber, he had the better car, he won. But as we all know, Webber dialed down his engine following the team's orders, and Vettel did not basically selfishly take the win for himself, which is a never good thing, especially when Vettel is at basically the peak of his performance. I would have said he's got 3 world championships under his belt. He's got 3 constructors titles for the team. Obviously, Mark Webber had a big role in also helping with that, but obviously Vettel being the front man, I guess he takes most of the credit for it, as he's the one who scored the most points for the team. But yeah, it's never a good thing when people say things like that, especially someone of his caliber. He's in the pinnacle of motorsport for any driver, anyone who is a fan of the sport, watches it, or any kid that dreams to be someday in F1. He's setting a really bad example for them. People will probably look up to him, like I look up to I guess Lewis Hamilton. I admire Fernando Alonso for his skill. I think he's probably the best driver on the grid. I would have said Fernando Alonso. Would have said Hamilton is very close behind him, and Kimi Raikkonen's also up there as well. I admire those guys. I like Jenson Button an awful lot due to his personality. He's always great to watch. He's always very fair in his racing. He'll allow room, he won't run people off the road. But yeah, Vettel's just setting a really bad example for people, basically saying you should lie, cheat your way through sport to get what you want, which is definitely something that you shouldn't be doing, because it's going to come around and bite him back one day, and I really hope it does. And obviously he's ruined a number of relationships, Webber being one, obviously, but I don't think they had much of a relationship anyway. I don't think Webber actually really liked Vettel at any point throughout the years, which is fair enough. And he's actually, a couple of people I know who actually support Vettel have said they've lost some of the respect that they had for him for that incident in Malaysia. Yeah, Nico Rosberg was also told exactly the same thing, to finish behind Lewis Hamilton, as Lewis Hamilton was fuel saving. And yeah, Rosberg displayed his disgust at the order through the team radio, saying that he's much quicker and he wants to get past. He wants that 3rd place, but Rosberg firmly told him no, that's not happening. It's going to be Hamilton in 3rd, you in 4th. And Rosberg followed that. He stuck in 4th. He stayed behind Hamilton, and he obeyed that order. And yeah, well, Mercedes have probably owed him one at some point, and I'm pretty sure probably at some point this season they've actually given him that opportunity of obviously finishing ahead of Hamilton in a similar result. I'm guessing it's probably one of his race wins that he's had throughout the season. But yeah, it's just completely undermining the team and its orders. It's never a good thing. Why can he get away with it in one of the most top sports across the world? Why can someone get away with undermining their managers, their team leaders, and for everyone else who's working in a minimum wage job and basically an office job, whatever kind of job you have, whether you're a doctor, whether you're, I don't know, something else, it just, I don't know, it's just really setting a really bad example, because obviously we've been told to never undermine your team leaders, managers, all that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm going to move on to Webber now. I'm kind of getting fed up of talking about Vettel a little bit. But yeah, Webber, I like Webber an awful lot. He's a very honest guy. He'll say what he thinks, and I like him for that. He is a good driver. Sometimes the car isn't there for him, or just the strategy doesn't work out, or things don't work out in his favour. He doesn't have a lot of backing. Most of the Red Bull team is obviously favouritism Vettel, which is a shame. Yet Webber still managed to kind of stand on his own 2 feet and basically threw the punches back, like in Silverstone. I think it was back in 2011. No, 2010, when they I'm losing my train of thought. When Red Bull took his front wing off him and put it on Vettel's car, and Webber went on to win the race. Yes, Vettel did get a puncture going into the Beckett's complex, and I was actually stood there working that day in one of the hospitality suites at the entrance to Maggots, and I stood out the front with all the guests to do a little bit of glass collecting, and basically shouted, screamed at the drivers going past, cheering them on with the rest of the guests to watch them all go past, and then Vettel go wide, and good God, that was an awesome moment. And then 2011, I was there actually watching the race with a mate. I went there for the weekend, and it's absolutely fantastic weekend. If you haven't been to a Grand Prix weekend and watched it actually live, you definitely have to go. It's one of the best things you can experience. Just the sound, the feel of the cars. You can hear every single gear shift. There's a nice pop and bang coming from the exhaust. You can feed it through the floor a little bit, and it just sends all your sensors into overdrive. Your hairs stand up on end, and it gives a really nice tingly sensation. It's just awesome watching the cars go around. You can hear them. Well, back when I was doing that hospitality suite, this was just how loud they were back in 2010. They were on the hospitality suite in the entrance to Maggots and Beckett's, and we were there for on the Saturday morning when they did free practice 3, and Vettel came out onto the track midway through the session, and it was just him on track, and you could hear him come out the pits, go off around through Farm, curve down the loop, down the Wellington Straight, off through through Luffield, Woodcote, sorry. Come up round, go through Cots, went flying past us into Maggots Beckett's, all the way down the Hangar Straight, down into Stowe, then down into Vale and Club, and you could hear him all the way around the track, and it was just phenomenal. But getting back onto the topic then, I like Webber an awful lot. The relationship there is a very negative one. There probably is no relationship. I'm guessing Webber tries to avoid Vettel an awful lot, and just avoid talking to him, sort of thing, which is fair enough. That's understandable. I'd probably do the same if I was in Webber's position, to be honest. As for whether it's good for the sport, I would have said yes, because obviously, whilst it's not a great thing to see Red Bull constantly winning, and it does get boring. However, they have had some very controversial and exciting moments, like back in Turkey, I think that was 2010 as well, when the two of them collided. Obviously Silverstone in 2010. There was a moment, I think it was in 2011. Pretty sure they had something done in on the final race in Spa. They also had one in 2012 as well, where Webber squeezed Vettel out in the first corner. And it's always good, and it makes the sport more exciting when you see a team that has dominated so much to be losing, and someone else to come in and overtake them, dominate. When things go wrong for Red Bull, it's always interesting and things like that. So yeah, I would have said it's relatively good for the sport, and I would, however, say that it's even better now this year, where the other teams have actually closed up to Red Bull. They're not so far ahead like they were in 2011 and 2012, where they just absolutely dominated the rest of the field. So that's actually, it's more 2011 when they did that. But yeah, that's good to see. It makes the sport more exciting. And who can I see as a viable replacement for Webber in 2014? Everyone's saying it's between Raikkonen, Ricciardo, and Verne. I think Verne's pretty much dropped off the radar from what I've read on the Sky Sports website in the past week or so. I can't see Raikkonen playing second fiddle to Vettel, which is probably the way it's going to be when someone goes into that team. I think someone is going to have to basically sit back and play the second man, the rear gunner, like Webber has been forced to do. I can't see Raikkonen doing that. If Raikkonen goes to the team, he has to push himself above Vettel. There's no way they're going to allow him to do that straight from the off. He's going to have to prove himself. And actually thinking about it, I'd really like to see that. I'd love to see Raikkonen put Vettel in his place in the team and basically just take over the number one driver slot in that team. That would be awesome to watch, as Raikkonen probably could do that quite easily. He has a hell of a lot more experience than Vettel does. I think he's a better driver and a better strategist than Vettel is. But yeah, I'm actually doubting that Raikkonen will probably go. I think he's got a really good team built around him at Renault, and I would like to see him stay at Renault. He kind of seems to fit the team quite well. It's just Renault need to push that little bit more in the cooler conditions to get their car up to speed in those cooler temperatures, because as we know they run extremely well in the very hot races, but in the cooler conditions they struggle a little bit, and it'd be nice to have that consistency across that spectrum to basically keep Vettel and also Grosjean fighting for those podium positions. It's good to see Grosjean getting some good races and some good position finishes in there as well. So I'm thinking Ricciardo's probably going to go. I don't have much to say on Ricciardo. He's had some good moments this year, but nothing outstanding. I'd like to see, say, Di Resta go into Red Bull. He's proved himself a lot and improved an awful lot this year. Di Resta has. He's had some very, very good races. He has a lot of respect for the other drivers whilst on track. He'll give them the room, yet he won't fully give up the position. He will fight for it, unlike he was doing last year. I thought last year he was a little bit too conservative in defending positions. He'll give up relatively easy, but this year he's been a lot more feisty, and the rest of us have very, very good qualifying results and also races this year. I think he's had a 5th place this year. I think he's actually had a 4th, and just missed out on a podium, which was a shame. That would have been really, really nice to see. That would have been awesome. But yeah, I'd like to see Di Resta move there. Also Hulkenberg. I reckon he would be a good fit for the team, and I think Hulkenberg has quite a bit more to prove. He just doesn't have the car underneath him, the Sauber, this year. Sauber seemed to be struggling an awful lot, but I'm probably going to say Ricciardo is probably going to be the person who moves to Red Bull, which would be good for him. We'll see what he can actually do in the faster car, because obviously the Toro Rosso is struggling ever so slightly this year. So that'll be an interesting one to see whether he's got the pace. And I imagine it's probably only going to be a 1 year contract just to start off with, just to see how well he does. I don't know how who's going to come in for Toro Rosso to replace him. Probably someone else in the Red Bull young drivers scheme, which will be interesting. And maybe we could see them if they actually do well enough to go straight into Toro Rosso, do a year at Toro Rosso, then go straight to Red Bull if Ricciardo does struggle. But hopefully he won't. Hopefully we'll see him around, and hopefully he'll do well at the team. But yeah, I think I'm going to conclude it there. I've rambled on for about half an hour now. If you guys are still here, then congratulations, and thank you very much for hanging around and just listening to me ramble. There's a couple of other questions that people would put in from the first video, and I'll hopefully try and get those done for the next one. But of course, if you have any more, or you want to put your question or topic forward again, then please feel free to either YouTube message me with the subject title being sit in chat, so obviously I know it's that and not something else that you're just inquiring to me about, or obviously leave it in the comments below. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Please give it a rating. If you have any comments or questions about those topics that we discussed today, and also if you want to obviously put forward your own, yeah, please leave it in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. I hope to see you soon, guys. Take care.